Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're taking a really fascinating look, quiet but rigorous, into a key text of modern spirituality. But it's one with, well, huge implications for how we live, how we work, how we learn. We're talking about Shunryu Suzuki's collection of talks, Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind.
Yeah, this is quite something the listener shared. It's more than just philosophy, isn't it? It's almost like a training manual for mental clarity, for focus.
Exactly.
These sources, right, from Suzuki Roshi's talks, they really do offer a kind of shortcut. Not, cramming more stuff into your head, but changing the mind's basic posture towards learning and acting effectively.
Right. So our mission today is to really crack open the essence of what Suzuki Roshi was teaching his early American students back in the 60s. We want to synthesize these deep teachings into insights you can actually use, focusing on Shoshin beginner's mind and, keeping that purity in practice and attitude.
And the context is really important here because Suzuki Roshi, he came to the West after someone else, someone more famous at the time, Daisetsu Suzuki. They were contemporaries, but their approaches to Zen, almost polar opposites, you could say.
Oh, absolutely. That contrast is key. Daisetsu Suzuki, he was huge for introducing Zen, no doubt. But his focus, it was, dramatic, intellectual even. He really emphasized Satori, that big, sudden enlightenment experience.
Yeah, very compelling stuff, almost mystical. Often centered on Rinzai Zen, the koanens, aiming for that breakthrough moment.
But Shunryu Suzuki, he brought something different, what people started calling ordinary Zen. He famously wasn't keen on chasing these exotic states. I mean, the book Zen Mind, Beginner's Mind, it doesn't even use the word Satori or Kensho.
That's right. He explicitly said Satori was not the part of Zen that needs to be stressed. His focus wasn't the big payoff. It was the moment-to-moment reality, the practice itself, the Zen of just ordinary everyday life, right here, right now.
Which brings us perfectly to that core idea. It sounds simple, but it's incredibly profound. The concept that really holds it all together. Beginner's mind. Shoshin.
And the core principle. It hits home immediately, whether you're tackling, a new software, starting a job, or just trying to keep things fresh in a long-term project. In the beginner's mind, there are many possibilities, but in the experts, there are few.
The expert thinks they've got it figured out, right?
Exactly. And that certainty, that knowing, actually limits them. They can't see the other ways. The beginner, though, coming from that place of emptiness, of not knowing, the potential is just boundless.
Okay, so let's unpack this. Starting where Suzuki Roshi starts, with the groundwork. The physical, the mental prep needed for practice. Let's call it right practice.
So the first hurdle Suzuki talks about, it's not really the physical thing, sitting cross-legged for ages. It's the internal struggle, keeping the mind and the practice itself pure in its fundamental sense.
Pure meaning free from what?
Expectations. Exactly. Free of attachment, free of expectations. That beginner's mind is empty. It's ready to accept things, it's open to possibilities, and crucially, it's free of all those habits and judgments the expert brings along. The one who thinks, oh yeah, been there, done that. It's getting back to that limitless original mind.
He has that great analogy, doesn't he, about reciting the Prajna Paramita Sutra.
Oh yeah, that's a brilliant one. You recite it once, maybe it's beautiful, pure, but the danger is right there. Recite it again, a third time, a fourth, and that expert mind starts to sneak in.
I know this part. I know how it goes.
Right. I know the rhythm, the meaning, the sound, and the moment you know it like that,
Yeah.
well, you stop actually listening to it, don't you? You lose that original attitude of discovery.
And that's not just chanting, is it? That's like
Yeah.
reviewing the same report template every week or running a meeting you've run 100 times. That expert familiarity, it just blinds you. You miss the small error or the chance for a totally new approach.
Precisely.
Yeah.
So the implication for you, the listener, is huge. If your mind goes into any task with what he calls a gaining idea, demanding quick results, needing praise, wanting that aha feeling of enlightenment right now.
You lose it. You lose that beginner state.
Instantly. The mind just shrinks.
Yeah.
Becomes greedy, limited.
And here's the really amazing philosophical jump he makes. If you can actually maintain that pure original mind, this non-greedy, self-sufficient state, then the ethical rules, like not lying, not stealing, they kind of take care of themselves. You don't need willpower to enforce them.
Why? Because those self-centered thoughts, the ones that make you feel you need to grab something you lack, they come from seeing things dualistically, right? Me versus the world. Gain versus loss.
Oh.
When you stop chasing achievements, stop trying to gain something, you realize Your mind is already inherently rich. It's boundless. If you're already full, complete, why would you need to lie or steal to get something external? That non-striving state, that's the core of the compassionate mind Dogen talked about centuries ago.
Okay, so from the mind, let's dive deep into the body. The actual posture of zazen, sitting meditation. Because Suzuki doesn't see it as just prep work for thinking, the physical act is the philosophy made real.
He's very specific about the mechanics. Left foot on the right thigh, right foot on the left thigh. The full lotus, or half lotus, the specific way the legs intertwine. Two distinct things, right leg, left leg, brought together. It becomes the ultimate physical picture of that central teaching. Not two and not one.
I always find that fascinating. They are clearly two legs, but in the posture, they function as one unit. They create the balance.
Exactly. So if you say definitively body and mind are two separate things, you're missing it. But if you say, oh, they're exactly the same, one thing, you're missing it too. They're both two and one. Their difference allows their unity to manifest.
And this isn't just abstract stuff. He applies this non-dual idea to the biggest things, like life and death. If you're stuck in that small dualistic view, death is the end, separation.
But from the posture's viewpoint, he says, we die, and we do not die. The bigger picture accepts both truths at once. The individual form ends, yes, but the underlying eternal nature continues. It's all part of this unified reality.
And getting the posture right is crucial for embodying this. Spine straight.
Perfectly straight. Pushing up with the back of the head like you're holding up the sky. Chin slightly tucked in.
Why the chin tuck?
It's functional, not just cosmetic. Chin up. You lose internal strength, you drift off, daydream. The real stability, physical and mental, comes from pressing the diaphragm down towards the hara, the lower abdomen. That's your center of gravity.
Oh, yeah, the hara.
That center gives you profound balance, makes you resistant to distraction.
And the hands, the mudra.
The cosmic mudra. Left hand on top of right, palms up. Thumbs just lightly touching, making this beautiful oval shape, held like you're holding something incredibly precious.
Which you are, in a way, the non-dual mind.
But here's the bit that really trips up our Western goal-focused minds. The posture is not a technique to get the right state of mind.
Oh.
Taking the posture correctly is the right state of mind.
Wow. That completely throws out the whole gaining idea, doesn't it? You're not sitting so that you'll feel enlightened later. The act of sitting, done right, is enlightenment in that instant.
It ties right back to that Zen saying, kill the Buddha. If you imagine Buddha or enlightenment as some prize out there, something separate from what you're doing right now,
yeah,
kill that idea. Get rid of it.
You find your own Buddha nature just by being fully in the posture.
Right?
Right here.
Exactly. And this connects directly to everyday life through what Suzuki calls the boss principle. You have to own your own body first. If your physical self is sloppy, unfocused, distracted, if the boss is sleeping, as he puts it,
then nothing else works properly.
Nothing. Trying to organize your desk, your schedule, your team, it's pointless if you, the boss, the core organizing principle, are internally out of whack. But when you get the posture right, when you establish that internal order and non-dual balance, everything else starts to organize itself around that center.
Okay, let's talk breathing, usually just seen as, well, breathing. But Suzuki turns it into a whole philosophy of existence.
He uses the image of the throat as a swinging door. Inhale, air comes into this limitless inner world.
Yeah.
Exhale, air goes out to the limitless outer world.
But fundamentally,
inner and outer are just one continuous, boundless world. The door just swings back and forth.
And the sense of I, the I who is breathing.
That's extra, surplus, unnecessary. If you think I breathe, that I creates separation, what we mistakenly call I is just the door swinging. When your mind is calm enough to just follow that movement, there's no I, no separate worlds, no body, just the swinging. And experiencing the breath this way, this non-dual way, it can actually dissolve our usual mental walls between time and space. We tend to carve up reality. Finish this by 3 p.m. Wish I was on vacation.
But in true practice, time and space merge, like he says. To eat lunch is itself 1 o'clock. The act is the time.
Right. No gap. It's only when we get tired, distracted, that we create that separation, wishing we were somewhere else, wanting a future moment. But in the pure present action, there's just the doing.
And this applies to judging things too, good, bad.
Those only exist in the separating mind. Instead of labeling something bad, just focus on the action itself, or even the not doing of the moment. If you ground your life in this way, he says, all that confusion from labeling time, space, good, bad, it just evaporates.
That detailed look at Zazen really does set the foundation for how we approach everything else, which brings us to part two.
Right attitude.
Okay, so right attitude. It has to start with accepting a kind of paradox, the paradox of control. Suzuki says everything exists within Buddha nature, meaning it's all perfect as it is. But often that perfection shows up as things, well, losing their balance against a background of perfect harmony.
So suffering isn't a mistake, it's part of the dynamic.
In this view, yeah. It's how we live, how life extends itself within this constantly shifting system. So if that imbalance is natural, trying to clamp down with rigid control is actually fighting reality.
Which leads to his surprising advice on control.
Right. The best way to control people, or even your own wild thoughts, is counterintuitively to encourage them to be mischievous. Let them be. The best policy is just to watch them. Observe yourself, observe others, without that rigid need to intervene immediately.
Radical non-interference.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So if you're sitting zazen trying to be calm, or maybe you're trying to focus on writing something creative, don't try to stop the thoughts. Those mind waves, let them come, let them go.
Because they're not invaders.
No, they're waves of your own mind. They're part of you. The moment you try to block a thought, you make it solid, give it power, and then you create a second wave judging yourself for having the thought.
Ah, yeah. The struggle about the struggle.
Exactly. But if you just leave your mind as it is, watch the waves. It settles down by itself. This non-judging, all-accepting awareness. That's what Suzuki calls big mind.
Okay, big mind versus small mind.
Small mind is dualistic. Always judging, relating to things out there, good, bad, want, don't want. Big mind includes everything. It experiences everything within itself. And shifting to that perspective, well, it gets rid of fear. It gives you this deep sense of security.
So a mind with waves isn't necessarily disturbed.
He says it's amplified. All your experiences, the good stuff, the tough stuff, it's all just the big mind unfolding its own nature. Recognizing that continuity, that it's all you in a bigger sense, gives you imperturbable composure. Nothing can really throw you off balance because nothing is truly outside you.
So difficulties, suffering, it's not happening to you from outside.
It's the big mind expressing itself, amplifying its nature through whatever experience arises, pleasant or painful.
Wow. That reframes things entirely. And it connects beautifully to his idea about mind weeds.
Yeah, mind weeds, those thoughts, the sleepiness, the difficulties, the ego stuff that comes up during practice, the things we usually try desperately to root out.
But his insight is kind of revolutionary for anyone who beats themselves up, isn't it?
Totally. Pulling out the weeds, we give nourishment to the plant. We should actually be grateful for the weeds. They enrich the practice. Because the very effort you put into dealing with them, the patience, the observation, just returning to the posture again and again, that effort itself becomes purer, more refined, until eventually the feeling of effort disappears into just natural action.
So fighting the weeds just wears you out and makes them stronger.
Right. But seeing them as nourishment, you acknowledge they're necessary. That discomfort of sitting still, that frustration of not getting it yet, that becomes the raw material you use to refine your practice. The initial, maybe clumsy effort gets polished by the continuous work until your mind and body become genuinely pure. And this acceptance of imperfection is so central. It leads right into that other great story he uses, the 4 horses.
Ah, yes, the excellent, good, poor, and bad horses, rated by how fast they react to the whip.
Right. Excellent horse runs just seeing the whip's shadow. The worst horse only moves after the pain hits deep, maybe right down to the marrow. And logically, we think, okay, gotta be the excellent horse. Fast, perfect, responsive.
But Suzuki flips it.
Completely flips it. Channeling Buddha's compassion, he says Buddha feels the most sympathy for the worst horse. It's in your flaws, your slowness, your repeated stumbles, that you find the real foundation for a determined search for the way. What he calls the marrow of Zen.
Why is the worst horse the most valuable then?
Because the person who struggles, who finds it hard, who has to keep coming back to the effort, they often grasp the actual feeling, the marrow of Zen, more deeply, more securely than someone who finds it easy from the start. The easy sitter might just be coasting on talent, not building that deep, committed root.
It connects to Dogen's idea, shoshaku jushaku.
One continuous mistake.
Right.
A true Zen master's life isn't perfection. It's years and years of continuous mistake.
Now, that needs clarifying, doesn't it? It's not an excuse for just being sloppy.
No, not at all. It means relentless, single-minded effort, even when the results aren't perfect. The person who boasts, I'm a good father, probably not really engaging. The good father is the one who's always trying, always learning, putting in that wholehearted effort day after day. The mistake is continuous, yes, but so is the effort to learn and adjust.
It's actually really liberating. Shifts the focus from some perfect outcome to just the sincerity of what you're doing right now.
And he applies this directly to really intense suffering, like trying to sit zazen when you're in agony over something terrible, like a loved one's hopeless illness.
When your mind is just chaos and nothing else seems to make sense.
In that situation, sitting anyway, just holding the posture you've practiced, that is the way to relieve the suffering. The posture itself, embodying that non-dual truth, gives you the sheer power to accept things exactly as they are, agreeable or deeply, horribly disagreeable.
Just knowing I am here now, sitting aligned with the universe. That's the bedrock.
That's the bedrock. That long, difficult practice helps you feel in your bones. And that realization is acceptance.
Okay, moving to consistency. Right attitude needs that single-minded way. He pictures it as a railway track.
Yeah, one railway track, thousands of miles long. Constancy, sincerity, that's the track. Life, that's the scenery whizzing by, always changing. Events hit us, things happen, but the track stays the same. Beginningless, endless.
Our job isn't to get somewhere specific on the track.
Just to run on it. Sincerely. He even warns against getting too hung up on analyzing the track itself. You'll just get dizzy. The path is the sincerity. Just keep going.
And that commitment to just doing leads to that famous Tiko-tu.
Oh yeah, perfect example of dropping the intellectual stuff. Two friends, Choki and Hofuku, they're deep in this complex academic debate about some bodhisattva's words. Really abstract.
And Hofuku just cuts through it all.
Cuts right through. Let's have a cup of tea. Boom. End of discussion.
It's the ultimate non-answer answer.
Exactly. The end of talking is the end of listening. The end of seeking some abstract understanding you can pin down. That simple phrase brings them right back to the present essential action. Drinking tea.
So this single-minded way, it needs repetition, right? But not just mindless repetition.
No, not boring repetition. Alert, observant repetition. Like Buddha's way, he says, making dough into perfect bread. You repeat the process over and over.
But the danger is getting too idealistic.
Yes. If your practice, or any project really, gets too focused on some perfect ideal I, if you try to leap instantly from where you are to that perfect outcome, you're setting yourself up for despair. Maybe even giving up entirely.
So actual practice is more like patiently repeating the steps.
Exactly. Until you just know how to make the bread. You have to be watchful, careful, alert, put the dough in, watch it bake, notice the small changes. Once you really get how dough becomes bread, you understand how enlightenment happens naturally, through careful, consistent action, not through forcing it.
So calm, constant, not chasing excitement. Zen isn't fireworks.
No. It's concentration on your usual everyday routine. If you get too busy, too hyped up, too high-minded about your goals, your mind gets ragged. Building character or skill, it's like making bread or building a dam, he says. Mix things slowly, step by step, keep the temperature moderate, try to build it all at once, it'll leak. Patience is key.
In this unexciting, steady way, that's actually the sudden way.
Because when your practice is calm and ordinary, then ordinary life is enlightenment. It's already here.
Okay, so the only way to really do this is through right effort. But effort aimed at non-achievement. That sounds like another Zen contradiction.
It does, doesn't it? How does that work? So you're learning something new. Effort aimed at non-achievement means getting rid of the extra stuff, the clinging.
Like feeling proud after a good practice session.
Exactly. That pride, that judgment that was good or that was bad, that's the extra. Right effort is the work of removing that pride, that grasping, that gaining idea.
So if you think you're going to get something from your meditation or your studying or your networking, but the practice is already off.
Impure.
Yeah.
Because it's conditional. The only real instruction is just sit zazen, just study, just connect. If enlightenment comes, if success comes, fine. It just comes naturally.
So put in the effort, stretch yourself, be sincere, but without expecting a specific reward.
Yes. Just continuing the process, that should be the only goal. He links it to that constant, hear the sound of one hand clapping. We try so hard to hear it. But he says don't try to listen to it.
Because
before you even clap two hands together, sound is already everywhere. You don't try to listen to all sound, do you? If you stop straining to hear that specific sound, you realize sound is everywhere. It includes everything.
And you're already in that sound, in that existence.
Always. Before you're you, this human form, you already existed. Existence can't just become non-existence.
So don't try to see some special thing. Don't try to achieve some special state. You've already got everything in your own pure nature.
Understand that. Really understand it. And there's no room for fear.
That deep existential understanding, that's the final piece, isn't it? That leads us to
Right.
understanding.
Right, understanding. It kicks off with giving. Dana, prajna, paramita. Let's break that down. Dana is giving. Prajna, wisdom. Paramita, crossing over to the other shore, liberation.
Okay.
And the core teaching here is simple but radical. To give is non-attachment. Not being attached to anything is the definition of giving.
So it doesn't matter what you give. A penny, a leaf, a piece of advice.
If it's given without the giver clinging to the outcome, clinging to the recipient's reaction, even clinging to the feeling of I am being generous, then it has absolute value, equal value.
That really clashes with how we usually value things based on cost or prestige.
Completely. Suzuki says all creation flows from the big I, call it God, universal mind, whatever. Everything is fundamentally a gift from this source.
And when we forget that source,
We get attached to the stuff itself, the material value, the exchange. We create problems. Like kids getting amazing presents but totally forgetting the parents who gave them. We forget who we fundamentally are.
he talks about 3 kinds of creation.
Yeah. First and most vital is that immediate awareness of self right after Zazen, that feeling of emerging from nothingness. Second, external actions, cooking, building things. Third, internal creations, art, culture, ideas.
And the first one is the foundation.
Absolutely. If you lose touch with that first one, that basic awareness of being created, moment by moment, then the other two, the external and internal making, they become kind of empty, rooted in ego, in attachment. Ends in themselves, not expressions of the big I.
So the practical takeaway for keeping that beginner's mind is,
We have to consciously forget every day what we did yesterday. That's non-attachment. And then work on something new, starting fresh from that basic awareness of creation.
forget yesterday's success, forget yesterday's failure, start empty, ready.
Exactly. And central to all Buddhist thought, really, is transiency, everything changes, and selflessness, no fixed, separate, permanent self. Suzuki just states it flat out. Suffering is simply not accepting this truth.
Which leads to another one of those core Zen paradoxes.
Right. We have to find perfection through imperfection. Perfect existence reveals itself in imperfect existence. The eternal needs the non-eternal to be known. Pleasure and difficulty aren't really separate things.
He illustrates this finding the eternal in the transient with the waterfall analogy, right?
Yeah, beautiful analogy. Picture Yosemite Falls plunging down that huge cliff. Before we were born, we were like the water up top part of the unified river, the universe, the big mind, complete, undifferentiated.
But as the water falls, that 1,430 feet,
It breaks apart. Countless tiny streams, individual drops, that's us, individual consciousness.
Yeah.
And being separate, we feel things, difficulty, fear, the fear of being small, finite, cut off,
until
until the water hits the bottom, rejoins the river. That's death. But not seen as wiping out, seen as perfect composure, the water gladly returning to its source. When you really grasp that your individual life and your eventual return are just two sides of one continuous reality, the fear of death, the fear of change, it starts to dissolve.
So understanding needs a big mental clear out first.
A general house cleaning of your mind, he calls it. You have to really let go of the idea of substantiality, the idea that things permanent, separate core essence.
Because true existence comes from.
Emptiness, Shunyata. It goes back to emptiness. Again, not nothingness. Emptiness as pure potential, the harmonious background of everything. Because there's no fixed path laid out moment by moment, we have to find our own way, emerge fresh from that emptiness.
And concentration in this context isn't about gritting your teeth and focusing.
No, concentration is freedom. If you try really hard to stare at one spot, you just get tired.
Yeah.
And you create that split. Me, the observer, that's the observed.
So real concentration is.
Effortless attention, directed at nothing in particular. Your effort goes into non-attachment, non-gain.
Yeah.
When your thinking is soft, open, undisturbed, not grabbing, not pushing away, that's mindful.
Which leads him to define wisdom as
It is the readiness of the mind that is wisdom. Wisdom isn't something you import from outside, from a book or a teacher. It arises naturally from that state of pure mindfulness, that open readiness to just perceive and accept whatever comes up from the big mind.
And finally, he pushes us beyond even conscious thought. Our practice, our being, needs to be grounded beyond consciousness.
In that space where fundamentally there's no difference between practice and enlightenment, which is our true nature anyway.
And the problem with idealism, striving for perfection, comes up again here.
Yeah. If you're constantly worrying, is my practice perfect? Or asking, why do I, who should be enlightened, still suffer? You're just creating this endless self-absorbed loop that actually feeds the ego.
So what's the Zen way to handle delusion then? negative thoughts, desires.
You realize pure mind in the delusion itself, not by getting rid of it. When a delusion pops up, a nagging thought, a judgment, a craving, just acknowledge it. Oh, this is just delusion. This is key. Don't be bothered by it.
Because trying to fight it or push it away.
Yes. Just gives it energy, makes it seem separate from your big mind. But if you just observe it calmly, like another wave passing through, you bring your true calm mind right into the middle of the delusion. It loses its power.
And this leads back to Buddha's own enlightenment experience.
That realization, it is wonderful to see Buddha nature in everything and in each individual. Buddha nature is just our original, complete nature. It was there before we started practicing. It's there after. That true understanding is always present, always accessible, right here in the simple, honest, non-striving practice of Zazen and keeping that beginner's mind.
Wow. That is such a deep, structured journey through practice, attitude, and understanding. Let's try and tie these essential threads together for everyone listening. Hashtag tag outro.
Okay, so the core ideas we've distilled today, right from Suzuki Roshi's teaching. First, that beginner's mind, Shoshin, is about open, boundless possibility, freedom from the expert's limitations. Second, the physical Zazen posture embodies non-dual truth, not two, not one. Third, the practice is the goal, no gaining idea. Let that one sink in. And finally, always present is the big mind, emptiness, shunyata. That's what allows true freedom, consistent effort, and non-attachment in everything you do.
And it's amazing how this book, these teachings, have had this quiet but profound impact. You see it referenced by people like Steve Jobs, famously a student back in the 70s, and you can kind of see that beginner's mind questioning everything and how he approached technology, or coaches like Phil Jackson using Zen principles for his basketball teams.
Yeah, it really transmits that freedom of true mind, that simple though difficult practice of just doing what you're doing right in this moment.
And Suzuki really urged observing the world with that beginner's eye. He pointed out things the busy mind misses, like before the rain stops, we hear a bird. Even under the heavy snow, we see snowdrops and some new growth.
That truth of constant, undeniable life, everything flowing, changing, always offering a fresh start. You can't grasp it by trying hard. You just have to see it.
So the final thought for you, the learner, to maybe mull over is this. If beginner's mind is the key to seeing that constant renewal, what new growth might you be missing in your own life right now simply because you're trying too hard to grasp onto a fleeting success or maybe push away an unavoidable difficulty?
Being able to see that snowdrop under the snow, hear that bird before the rain stops, that seeing is your practice, and that practice, that's your liberation right here.
Thank you for taking this deep dive with us. We'll see you next time.